Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Go Fast, Grow Fast. Today I'm here with Arjun of Docket AI, and I'm pumped to have this conversation. Welcome.
Thanks, Shawn. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Why don't you give people an idea of your background and where you come from?
Sure. I am currently the co-founder and CEO of the company called Docket AI, and we can come talk about Docket. I'm an engineer by education, started my first company when I was 23. After failing in the first 4 products, built out a sales intelligence tool. The easiest way to say is like we were Clearbit. We were like Clearbit before Clearbit. Grew that team to 72 people. I was based in India. I sold that company to a company called Full Contact in 2016, moved to US, was with Full Contact for a little bit of time as the head of data strategy, moved on, then consulted for a bunch of companies in 2018, started my second company, Incent, intent and consent of the buyer. That's how the name came together. And this was like, to make it easy for the listeners, it was like drift.com. So Drift was the front runner, qualified.com, and Incent, we were kind of, catching up with Drift with a different thesis, right? Drift was a chatbot first company back in the day. And I was like a human first conversational platform for mid-market and above. So small thesis differences and targeting differences, but the underlying technology, the chat paradigm, same. Grew that team to 35 people, raised a couple of rounds, and we were doing very good in both the companies. For Incent, at that time, Henry Schuck, the CEO of ZoomInfo, wanted to, offer a potential acquisition for the company. The deal made sense. Sold the company in 2021 to ZoomInfo. Joined ZoomInfo as the SVP of products. Built out the account-based marketing platform called MarketingOS for ZoomInfo that scaled really quickly for the company. Then took over data, so SVP of product and data. Then from there, got promoted to become the chief data officer of ZoomInfo. So that was the whole data org at ZoomInfo, all the data elements rolled up to me, 15 product lines or something like that. And marketing always continued to report up to me. Was there for 2 years and a month or so. Moved on in July last year and started Docket in August. Docket is a seed-funded company. We have raised about $5.5 million so far. We are a team of roughly 20 people between India and US, early customers and traction, and through that 0 to 1 journey right now again.
That is quite the career path. It sounds like you are very much a serial entrepreneur. You can't help yourself.
I have the entrepreneur itch for sure. For some reason, I cannot relate so much with the serial entrepreneur as a terminology, but certainly I am at peace running my own companies, and I find a lot of pleasure in learning new things and solving problems.
Right. Yeah. So what's it, just, as a quick detour here, being the CDO at a company like ZoomInfo versus starting that 0 to 1 journey, those are pretty high contrast situations. What's it like going back and forth between those two?
I jumped from, I was the SVP of product at first, right? So that I had like 20, 25, maybe 30 people reporting up to me. Then when I became the chief data officer, it was, 400 something people reporting up to me, huge portfolio value that is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So there was that big jump, and then suddenly going back to Docket with like 2 people, me and my co-founder. It is very different. But also, the key is, what are you focused on at any given point in time, right? So when you're operating in a really big company or in a really big team, it is all about the immediate set of people who are near you, right? So you invest a lot in the people that is closest to you. You are not so much of a doer at that point. You are the coach, right? So you work with every person, tell them, here is the field of view. Here is what you're good at. Here is what you need to improve on. Let's go attack that field of view that you see. So being a coach is about, you are not a doer at that point, right? You imagine you have 400 people. There's no way you can do the work of everybody, right? The only way you are going to succeed is if the people around you are guiding the people that they are working with. So you spend a lot of time working with your immediate team members, and you try to kind of help them to take the decisions that you would have taken given the circumstance. So the only way to make that happen is you try to give them as much information. So if they have the same level of information that you have, and then if they have the same kind of frameworks to make decisions that you have, then they would end up making the same decisions that you would have made, right? So that's my theory. So give them the information. So be as transparent as possible. Give them as much information as possible. Then coach them with all your frameworks. There are simple things that, for decision making, this, that, I use different frameworks. Give it to them. So they would end up taking the same decisions, which, hopefully will kind of percolate across the team, and the team operates at higher efficiency. Then, so that is the working style in in my organizations, bigger organizations. On the culture side, it's a very human first approach, wherein I look at the happiness of the people. I genuinely care about their career growth. I have one-on-one conversations. If they need me, I kind of make time outside the working hours. So it's very human first approach when it comes to the culture of the team. So if you can bring together the culture and, the decision-making, the frameworks and the information, then the teams will operate at, really high efficiency, high happiness, good NPS scores, things like that. That is how a big organization works. A smaller organization like Docket, I am very much a doer, right? So until very recently, we just hired our first salesperson. But until recently, I was the SDR, I was the account executive, I was the post salesperson. I sent them the agreements. The whole thing was done by me. So that's a different experience. There are pros to it, there are cons to it. But again, it boils down to what you want to do. When I joined ZoomInfo, I actually wanted to experience that, to operate at a company that is at $1.25 billion in revenue, be part of the executive of that company, and being able to execute at that scale was a whole different ball game and learning for me. And I was, even today, I'm enamored with, the kind of scale the company is operating. So I wanted to learn that. But at the core of it, I am a startup guy who really likes building things from scratch, building teams from scratch, building products from scratch. So that's who I am right now. So, in some way I enjoy both, but I enjoy this a little bit more.
That's great. Yeah, they're different challenges, and different seasons of your life demand that. So give people an idea. Right now, you mentioned you hired your first salesperson. So on the marketing and sales side, is it just you and one salesperson, or is there anybody else so far?
Yeah. So we have one person on the post-sale side now, one person on the account executive side now. We have an outbound agency, a cold outbound agency that we are starting to work with. And then we have a product marketing person that we recently hired. So that's kind of the go-to-market team today.
That's great. Okay. So you mentioned you're in, February is when you really started with your go-to-market. So that's that 0 to 1 phase. You've acquired a handful of customers now, and you're trying to build that out. So when you hit the ground in February, what was the first thing that you started doing? How did you approach that? What assets did you create? What did you activate immediately?
Yeah. So, doing it for the first time versus doing it for the third time, there are some differences, obviously. One of the primary differences is that I have some domain expertise and some value that, I've learned in the 10, 12 years that I've been operating. And there are people who value that. And over this period of time, I have a pretty good LinkedIn and social following in general. I think today I have more than 30,500 followers on LinkedIn. Connections plus followers, and Twitter I have 3,500. I'm not so super active on X or Twitter so much, but these days I'm a little bit more. So basically, even before we went GTM, I was kind of active on LinkedIn, and I saw how it was impacting my conversations. So people started applying to the company more. I went to Bay Area for a meeting, and then I was surprised at how many people have seen my videos that I posted on LinkedIn. I didn't know them. They were not my first degree connections, but somebody they knew liked it and they saw it. So I kind of saw enough about LinkedIn that I was convinced that it's a really good asset. And given that I have a rich set of following on LinkedIn, that was obvious to me that that should be the first thing that I do. So I regularized my LinkedIn after I started the company. After a couple of months after starting the company, I've been pretty regular. I do 3 to 4 posts. I'm not super strategic in terms of, I only post about this. I don't use ghostwriters. I don't do a lot of automation.
Right.
I do a little bit of automation in terms of, scheduling, for example, is automated more on my LinkedIn. But other than that, yeah, LinkedIn is the first thing that it did. And so far, that is one of the things that has been working for us. We get inbounds very quickly. We rolled out our website pretty much from the next day onwards. There were roughly, let's say, 100 to 150 visits a day, which, for a new website, it's not, 150 visits is pretty good. Out of which, obviously, we started tracking and looking at IP resolution, how many people, how many accounts. And I saw that roughly 30 to 40 accounts were proper accounts. These are companies that you and I would know. Right. So that on day one or the first week of a company, if you can get to that kind of traction just by posting 10, 15 minutes on LinkedIn, that's amazing. That's answering your question. Yeah, that's what I did. And now when we get inbounds and we get a bunch of them, we could get on the call and we ask them, hey, how did you know about Docket? And they'll always say something like, yeah, on LinkedIn, I saw some video. It's probably you, Arjun. You had some video there, or I saw a post that my friend liked and it sounded intriguing, AI sales engineer. So I wanted to check it out.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really good traction to have so early. And with the website, this is a very in the weeds question, but with the website, how did you approach that? Did you internally, hack something together, or did you set aside budget to have somebody else put it together? How did you approach that?
We did it in-house. And in general, I do most of the things in-house. Not to say that giving it external is a bad thing or a wrong thing. I generally tend to do things internally because, you have a thought process that you're trying to flesh out rather than kind of handing off things to others right from day one. There has to be some level of maturity, right? A founder is thinking about product messaging, product positioning. The founder is the person who has had so many customer discovery conversations. So like when the founders are involved in the initial website building process deeply, it could come out better than a fully external agency doing it. So we rolled it out internally. The flip side to that is if I had given it to an agency, our website would have gone up faster. Since we tried to do it internally, the website was like a one-pager for, I don't know, about a month or so. First of all, it was delayed to launch. And then since the launch, it was a one-pager for a really long time, like a month or so. Now we have probably 5 or 6 pages, but we have another 10 pages that is under the construction right now. So if it was an agency, I would probably have touched 10 pages by now. That is the flip side to the argument. But yeah, that's how we did it, for right or the wrong.
No, that's great. And I think that, the thing that you highlight, which is, being forced to go through these exercises, it helps clarify your own thinking and what you're talking about. It's the act of writing something is an act of thought. Like you have to clarify it, make it concrete. And that's really important, whether you're doing it internally, if you're doing the whole site internally, or you're outsourcing it. Either way, you still need to go through that exercise because, to your point, you're the one that has all of this internal knowledge from talking to people, and you need to find a way to clarify that.
Exactly. That's what I think too.
No, that's great. So, you started out with LinkedIn. You saw, you saw some anecdotal evidence. Are you, with the stage that you're at, is that anecdotal evidence enough for you to justify continuing to spend time on it? Or are you putting, KPIs around it now? Or how are you approaching it? Are you just saying, I just need to keep up the frequency as long as we're, as long as we're growing, we're going to keep doing it?
Yeah, I mean, this is not only my anecdotal evidence. I have got a lot of friends in the go-to-market circles. It is working for most of my buddies who are investing their time and effort on LinkedIn, right? So it's not just me.
Right.
So that's one. The other thing is I do have some KPIs that I'm starting to target right now. That is in terms of the weekly impressions that I'm creating on LinkedIn, right? How many impressions am I creating on LinkedIn? And then we just started adding UTMs to, places where we are posting our link to start tracking it better.
Great.
So that's another thing. The raw traffic, engagement rate, things like that, we have started tracking that, put reports together, weekly reports come to us today. So we have started putting those KPIs together. Today, just on LinkedIn, answering your question specifically, just the number of people citing LinkedIn when we get on a call or for an inbound lead as to where they found us when they say it is LinkedIn, just that information is more than enough for me to double down on LinkedIn, because it is not like I'm spending 2 hours on LinkedIn today. I take like less than 15 minutes to write something on LinkedIn, because it's literally, I have a thought is kind of fleshed out already. So I go to LinkedIn, I don't look at the grammar, I don't do anything, I don't use any automation. I just literally write it the way it comes to me. And if you look at my LinkedIn post, you would find grammar mistakes, typos, all of that is there. I won't even proofread. I just hit schedule or post depending on the time. Sometimes I get idea like at 10:30 p.m. when I go to bed. At that time, I write it on my mobile and click on schedule, which post at 10 a.m. At the next day. If it's daytime, I'll simply hit post and it'll go. So that's how much I'm spending today. Given how much less I'm spending, given the kind of anecdotal evidence that I'm receiving, it's a no-brainer for us to double down.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely a theme in a lot of the conversations we've been having with people, especially in B2B, where there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of people complaining about how spammy LinkedIn is, and there's like, it's so saturated, there's no value. But then pretty much every B2B founder I talk to, like you, they're like, no, LinkedIn's working great. It's driving sales conversations. Don't complain about it. Just figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, I think it's a natural progression. If you look at emails and evolution, right? Emails didn't have spam filters initially. Spamming started, spam filters came through. There weren't a lot of tags. There was no priority inbox, updates folder, promotions folder. It was not there. When that happened, Gmail started that. So I think the evolution, if you look at LinkedIn recently introduced a lot of changes in their inbox. So now they have got this other inbox, starred inbox. That was a very recent addition to LinkedIn's inbox, because they recognize that the amount of messages that are going into somebody's inbox is significant today, right? Unlike 5 years back. So I think the evolution is happening. Today, LinkedIn is certainly working, and I think it'll continue to work. You can call it like an audience first or audience led motion. So there is the sales led motion, there is the marketing led motion, product led motion, then this is kind of like an audience led motion. Alongside, I also rolled out my podcast. It is called Revenue Ramble. So it's the same thing, right? I'm trying to build out an audience specifically around GTM revenue. In Revenue Ramble, we talk to experienced revenue leaders about GTM efficiency, right? So the idea is that, hey, build out more audience, and when you can get the right audience, add value to them over a period of time, they are going to look at what you do. And if there is a problem that they have, they are going to come to you.
Yep. No, that's great. And that audience side of things, it requires a long-term view, right? Because it takes time to build up that audience. And you've already built that baseline audience through your career and getting that initial LinkedIn followers, but it needs to be value add first over time in order to build that trust. And taking that view is extremely beneficial. And so you mentioned that you have an outbound agency that you're working with. LinkedIn's working so well. How is email working for you?
I wish I could say it was also going really well. It is not. So overall, based on everything that I've heard, cold emailing or cold outreach has actually slowed down significantly across, not only for us, across the industry. I think the reply rates have plummeted to like something close to 50% of what it used to be. So for you to generate the same amount of results, you have to now double the kind of volume and efforts that you're doing. There is this whole new concept called signal-based selling that everybody is focused on. This is a combination of, your first-party data and third-party data combining and figuring out the intent signals of the buyer and then reach out to the buyer to like the larger thesis is there is 3 to 5% of your total addressable market that is buying at any given point in time. The 95% is not. So the previous cold outreach methodology was spraying and praying to the whole 100%. But the signal-based selling is all about how do you find the 5% first and then go directly to them. And then how do you use your first and third party data to find the 5%? So that's the signal-based selling approach. So we moved from like a cold outbound very quickly. In the first week itself, we moved from like the regular old cold outbound to more like a signal-based approach. Even in that signal-based approach, we haven't seen a ton of traction so far, but it is also not like we have been trying for a long time. Cold outbound typically takes time. In my experience, it takes, I don't know, 8 weeks, 10 weeks to kind of crack the code there. And once it cracks, then you will be able to run on it for a little bit of time until that saturates and you'll have to find something else. So too early to make a judgment, but so far it is not working.
Right. No, and that's very, I think a common view as well on that is it's gotten much harder, and we take a little bit, it's a slightly nuanced view in that performance is degraded because the bar has gotten so much higher. There's so much spam, there's so much noise that the amount of value you need to offer to people needs to be way higher, and what you ask of them needs to be way lower, and move that bar. Like there was a time where you could ask people to go, put in your email to download this PDF, and like everybody did it, and that was accepted. Now, asking someone to put in an email to download a PDF that's actually a really high bar. Like that's the same as asking them for a meeting in a lot of respects. And so there's this concept that the bar is moving for how much value you have to deliver before asking for something in return. I'm curious if that's something you agree or disagree with.
No, I totally agree. I think I think you mentioned it very well. The amount of noise that is out there, it's almost like a white noise, right? We just receive so much that for your thing to stand out above the white noise, the value that you are offering, you can either call it value or you can call it relevance. I like to use the word relevance more because, whatever, I receive hundreds of emails a day, literally today. But out of all the emails, if it is relevant to me, if it is about a problem that I'm actively thinking about, then I still respond to, 1 cold email a day average, out of 50 that I receive maybe. That's because there is a relevance and they are talking about a problem that I care about. And I don't care about personalization, honestly, right? People talk about email personalization a lot. I don't care about email personalization. I care about email relevance. Whether they call me hello Arjun or hello there, I don't care if the rest of the body of the email, it talks about something that I care about. Right? Or I don't care about whether he and I went into the same university back in the day, or he had a, like whatever, right? So those are the personalization elements, and relevance is actually talking about a problem that I care about at this point in time.
I'm on a personal crusade to redefine what personalization means, because to your point, I feel like that word has been overtaken by I inserted a first name, and that's like personalization. But to me, that's just sad. That again, we have to raise the bar. Personalization is looking at, what you care about and then why this matters to you. And, there's a time in the very near future where, AI can help do that at scale, but you need to give it guidance on what that means, because nobody cares that you put your first name in the dear line. That doesn't matter. But if you're able to say, here's the thing we're doing, here's why it matters to you specifically, now that's personalization that actually does something.
Right. Exactly. Tell me about what you did for other customers like me. I care about that.
Yep. And so getting into, your with your product, is focused on sales. and helping them, understand all the disparate content that is available for them to utilize in that sales process. So first off, who are you actually selling to with your product? Like who actually buys your software?
Yeah, so our customers are those companies that have a product that takes a little bit of an effort to sell. So our customers have
Mhm.
a kind of a technical product or a complex product that their buyers ask a lot of questions about. So this could be, think about enterprise software or like a manufacturing or a financial services, where the product itself is actually complicated enough that there is a technical buying committee of 4, 5, 6 people asking a lot of technical questions to the account executives. And the account executives are, these folks are not engineers all the time. So they are ill-equipped
Mhm.
to answer some of these highly technical questions. And the companies have to hire a lot of sales engineers to support their sales motion. Those are our
Right.
customers. From a size standpoint, I think once a company crosses about 20 to 25 AEs, the problem is felt really high. That account executives
Mhm.
need help. Once the company crosses about 40 AEs, unless they figure this out really well, their GTM efficiency is going to be really bad. So we work with companies as low as 15 AEs, and we work with companies as big as 2,000 selling seats, including AEs and AMs.
Right. Right. No, that's great. And then so you're is it fair to summarize this tool as, it's doing a lot of the work of sales enablement?
Yes. So yes, the idea of the product is that it's a sales enablement tool at a very high level, because sales enablement is the function that is enabling account executives to answer these complex questions today, or sales engineer. So we call Docket as an AI sales engineer that assists account executives to close complex sales processes. That's how we define the thing, but it's certainly a sales enablement paradigm.
Right. And why is anybody interested in this? Like what's the benefit?
Yeah. See, I mean, this, everybody knows this, right? The buyers have questions. Today, the buyers are actually way more tech savvy than they used to be 10 years. Today, a buyer
Mm.
goes to G2 and Trust Radius, and then they look at your competitors. They read your website, PDFs, content. They come to your website after deciding that here are the 3 vendors that I'm looking for. Here is what they are similar for.
Right.
And then they have a few questions, right? 2 or 3 questions to differentiate and figure out which one I should go with. That's when they are actually coming to you and talking to you. So what that means
Right.
is, on the first call, they are going to ask questions, deep questions. And account executives need help when these deep questions are asked. So our thesis at Docket, based on all the conversations, hundreds of conversations that we have had, is that almost all the questions that your buyers are asking, they have been asked and answered before, but it is somewhere
Mhm.
in the enterprise. It is on a Slack thread or an internal enablement training session or a call recording
Right.
or in a battle card. It's just humanly impossible to pull all of this information into one place. Even if you pull it to one place, you cannot keep it updated in an ongoing fashion. Even if you keep it updated, you cannot make it accessible for an account executive just in time as a sales
Right.
script so that they can move the deal
Right.
forward. So if you have these problems, this is when Docket is helpful. We can integrate seamlessly into your existing stack. We have 100 plus integrations. Pull in all the
Right.
information, build an enterprise knowledge graph that your account executives can tap into right on Slack or on Chrome, wherever.
Right. So with these kinds of tools, in where you're building smart solutions that are, using AI, pulling in many data sources and making sense of it. One of the conversations that's happening over and over again is this a co-pilot or is this a replacement? And,
Mhm.
what I see a lot is, you know, in business, there is rarely a situation where you have enough resources to do everything that you want to do. It is almost always the case that there are things you leave on the table because there's just not enough hours in the day or enough man hours to actually accomplish that. So when you're going in and talking to your buyers, how is this pitch? Is this a tool that's replacing the sales enablement team? Is it enabling them to do more, or is it, helping them be successful maybe where they weren't even able to be successful?
Yeah. There is what is possible today. There is an answer based on that, and then what would happen in the future, there is an answer based on that, right? Today, our system is more like a tool where the system is actually helping the sales enablement people, the account executives. So I was just doing like a case study with a customer. When our system answers roughly 150 to 200 questions, they save 10 hours of their SME time. So every 200 questions that an account executive is asking, 10 hours of SME time was being wasted. So when they brought in Docket, the Docket is answering 79.6% for that particular customer. So what that means is 79.6% of this 10 hours is just getting saved. That's 7.9 hours out of the 10 hours, right?
Right.
What that enables the SEs to do is to go focus on the enterprise deal. Now, would that mean that the company is going to hire less SEs because the need went down? Potentially, yes, right? Because the GTM efficiency has gone up. But is that going to happen right now? No, because they would much rather move these people to more deals, into more enterprise deals, so that they can close more, right? So that's what's going to happen today. But over a period of time, AI is going to get to a point where it is going to, start behaving like a human, right? It can augment your team as an additional team member rather than a tool. And we think of Docket as like an AI sales engineer that gets vertically integrated into your company as an employee. But when that happens, it is not like, we are all going to sit back and there's no job for humans, everybody will be on the street. Typically, when these kinds of paradigm shifts happen, the role of the people changes, right? So today, sales enablement teams, for example, their primary job is to make sure that the sales enablement things are happening. So in my mind, it's a coordination and enabling and things like that. From there, it'll move to become like be the buddy of AI. So the AI is going to prompt the sales enablement person, hey, I have this conflict. What do I do? What is the right answer? Or, hey, there is this 3 people in the 10 people team who are not good at this particular topic. Can you do a sales enablement for those 3 people? So AI and humans are going to work hand in hand, which means that the companies will become a lot more efficient, right? And then that enables people to invest more and grow faster. So that's the world I think that would happen. We are going to use AI to solve even harder problems while humans will continue to elevate ourselves.
Yeah. No, that's really great. I joke around that I can't wait until AI, gets advanced enough where we're on the other side of the ChatGPT window, where OpenAI is saying, hey, I came to an edge case that I just don't have the data to process. Can you tell me what to do here? And my job is just to respond to it and let it know. That's the future I'm hoping for.
Yeah. No, the system is going to be insanely powerful, right? Today, for example, a cancer drug takes years for development. When COVID hit, it took 1.5 years or something for the vaccine. But if AI was there and it was processing so much information, maybe we could have done that in 3 months. Maybe a Mars mission would happen in 3 years instead of 20 years. Maybe I can make it rain where it is very hot, and maybe I can remove some snow where it is very cold, right? Because these are super hard problems. How do I solve pollution? How do I solve equitable distribution of food? And there are so many hard problems in the world outside our tech bubble. But what this AI as a capacity or a capability to the humans, it's enabling us to think really big, right? And solve problems using this compute and intelligence that is available to us right now.
Yep. No, that's exactly. I 100% agree. And so on this topic, we always ask all of our guests, how are they using AI? Obviously, it's built into your product, so that's a big part of what you're offering. Are you using AI in your day-to-day for any other tasks?
Yeah, I actually use quite a bit I'm a big tool person generally. The way I think about
Mm-hmm.
it is, if I have a problem, somebody has built a SaaS tool for that. Right? That's
Mm-hmm.
how I think of it. So
Yep.
any problem that I have, I first go and do intense searches to find the right tool. And then I play around with a
Right.
bunch of tools, and then I end up using some of them. So one tool that I actively use even on this call is Crisp.ai. Crisp is
Mm.
like a AI-based noise cancellation and transcription tool. It's very, very economical. I pay, I don't know, $9 or something like that
Yeah.
per month, and it does a ton of things for me for just that $9. So
Yep.
I highly
I'm
recommend
I'm I'm
Crisp.
using I'm using it right now as well, actually.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I can sit in the middle of a market and do this call, and people will be like, "Yeah, Arjun is in such a nice place." Right? That's the power of Crisp. Then the
Yep.
other tool, let's see, I use Super Whisper. When I don't want to type a lot, I want to just dictate. I use Super Whisper to dictate for long
Yep.
form emails, documents, things like that. Obviously, I use Docket a lot for my daily job. All of the sales enablement at
Right.
Docket is being done through Docket. So Docket is like a big one as part of it. I really like Rewind AI.
Mm.
Rewind's ability to kind of m- give a perfect human memory, not a perfect human memory, a perfect memory for humans through Rewind. I think it's an insane capability, and I really like how they have put together the UI. So that's pretty good. I really like them. Just thinking what else. I really like Shortwave's AI emailing capabilities. Shortwave, the emailing app, the mail client. I think they have
Yep.
done out of all the mail clients that I've tested, Shortwave's AI stood out pretty significantly to me. So those are some of the ones that I think I use. I'm sure there are more, but these are the ones that keep to
Oh, I'm
mind.
sure. It's that's still a pretty strong list. Well, and
Yeah.
the part we usually close out the podcast with is, any recommendations to the audience, and you've already got a pretty strong start there with that list. Is there anything non-AI related that you want to recommend to the audience?
Yeah, let's continue down that track since we were talking about tools. One of the tools that I recently started using that I really like is a tool called Screen Studio. If you folks go to my LinkedIn, and then there's a featured video of Docket demo for like 2 minutes. If you see that video, right? That video is super amazing. But I spent like literally 3 minutes, 4 minutes to build out that video because I use this
Wow.
tool called Screen Studio. The interesting thing is they automatically focus where you move your cursor, and they do a bunch of things to
Mm-hmm.
make that video look insanely amazing. Right.
Right.
So I really like Screen Studio. I use Opus clips. So if you go to my
Yep.
LinkedIn, there are a lot of clips that I post on LinkedIn. All of those posts are either generated using Opus clips or using Minvo. I really like both of those tools.
Mm.
Um, what else? Oh, I use Raycast,
Mm.
Raycast. It's an AI tool. It's kind of a replacement for your Mac Spotlight. And Raycast allows you
Right.
to do a lot more things than that. It has got a bunch of really cool integrations. Oh, one hack, Grammarly Premium. You know, yeah,
Mm.
I'm sure like 99% of listeners they are either using Grammarly or have used Grammarly in the past. But most of them,
Yeah.
again, 95% of them might be using the free edition of Grammarly, and they'll be like, "This is
Mm-hmm.
awesome." I make a typo, Grammarly would correct it, which is cool. But Grammarly Premium is so amazing that it'll read the whole sentence and will recraft the whole sentence, not just like one word, right? So
Right.
when I write emails, I literally scribble my emails, right? I write super fast, and then I wait 1 second, and Grammarly would recraft that entire sentence without losing any of the meaning, but into a much better
Right.
English construction, right? So it, I had no idea that Grammarly Premium was so much more valuable than Grammarly Free. So I've been a paid
Right.
subscriber of that for a long time now. So there you go. Those are, I can keep going, but I don't,
That's
these are some of the ones.
that is a treasure trove of recommendation. I look I look forward to the day when you sell this company and you're looking for something to do and you start your tool recommendation blog. I think everybody will subscribe to that.
Yeah, I should do it
Um,
on the side. I'm not selling Docket. This
yeah.
is gonna be a long
Yeah.
run
Oh,
game.
oh, all right. All right. All right. Well, then, yeah, you better spend your weekends doing this then.
Deal.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time today. Are there any closing words that you want to share with the audience?
No, I really enjoyed the chat. I think all of us, I'm sure the listeners too, go to market is evolving so fast. Whatever that has
Yeah.
worked for you in the past is certainly not working right now. Things are changing so
Yeah.
fast. So, I suggest you experiment a lot. Short form content, short form videos. I even just TikTok. And TikTok has been actually pretty good for me. I get more organic
Nice.
views on TikTok than YouTube, believe it or not. So, I,
Wow.
I highly recommend you guys to check out many things. If you can start building out an audience today, whether it is 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, doesn't matter. As long as you have an audience, I think you will be able to build on top and monetize on top of it. So, that's probably my recommendation. Start building something so that there is an audience around you. That's where B2B is going.
Amen to that. I wholeheartedly agree. Well, thank you again, Arjun. I'm sure everybody's going to get a lot of value out of this. It's been a really great conversation, and everybody make sure to, leave a comment, share what you loved about this, and obviously hit subscribe. So thanks and bye, everybody.
Thank you.